Yeah, thank you for joining us for this very special episode of Freaky Stories. Hey. Huh? Okay, so every episode is special, but tonight we have a guest expert who will explain the reason for the success of my show, right after our first Freaky Story.
Listen up, this is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Let me tell you the story of Penny Penday, the runty kind of kid who always runs away. Her mother enrolled her in PS32, and from that day on, the other kids tried to get her black and blue. They thought she's too skinny. They thought she's too lame. They hated that her running shoes didn't carry some star's name. Penny tried to act real tiny. She tried to disappear. But there was this gang of real mean girls who liked to instill fear. Teresa the Terror was a leader's name. She wore tight jeans and her friends all did the same. They hounded after Penny both by day and by night, tripping her and pushing her and giving her a fright. Boys can be bad, but girls are meaner still. They held Pen by her ankles out the home ec windowsill. They stuffed her in the bathroom, put her head in the sink. They told her that her perfume gave off a rancid stink. They were fixed to play some tricks, and their makeup was on double thick. Penny was a baby, and I don't mean maybe. Her backbone, it was limp noodle lazy. She'd cower in the playground, hide behind the teach. Teresa steal her lunchbox, hold it out of reach. They stuffed her in the locker, they wedged her pantyhose. Penny lied to her mom when she got home with a bloody nose. Day after day, it was all the same. When she thought they'd given up, they'd find a brand new game. They'd laugh at her in science class and make her touch dead brains. They dissed her, and they dissed her, till she thought she'd go insane. She was sad, she was mad. She wanted to get back at them real bad. She took Kwando, let her rage go. She practiced 24/7 now, don't you know? Now the city kids, they don't take no yellow bus. They ride through the tunnel like the rest of us. Penny had to face Teresa every day, riding the rails on the big line A. Teresa and her girls would cruise through all the cars, hassling passengers, ignoring safety laws. They wouldn't mind the gap, they held the doors ajar. If these femmes had been Girl Scouts, they'd never made it far. They zoned in on Penny like a heat-seeking missile. They jumped in a car after the guard blown his whistle, went straight up to her and faced her nose to nose. But I bet you can't guess how the rest of this goes. Teresa suddenly apologizes, said what she's done's not been fair. Cause it just ain't right to mess with Pen, cause she don't like her hair. Seems the guidance counselor got to Treese, and something just sunk in. She was really very sorry now, and hoped they could be friends. Pen was shocked she wasn't mocked, that she wasn't suddenly put in a headlock. Teresa seemed sincere, then they were there. Pen walked out on the platform without fear, but then she looked back and saw what she saw. Teresa with her lunchbox, a big smiling jaw. The box Pen left back on her subway seat. The fuck she'd have to get back with her Kwando feet. So many times before, Penny started seeing red, couldn't take it no more. She would show that sandwich thief what a skinny runt can do when she's sick of going hungry and been taught a move or two. She said, hey everybody, clear the floor. She was tough, she was rough. She showed Teresa all her stuff. She swung her leg, she jumped up high. Teresa gave her the box cause she was gonna cry. Now you're waiting for the moral, seems it turned out right. The bully gets her just desserts when Penny learns to fight. But this just ain't the ending, there's something more to go. There's still a freaky bit hanging there down the road. thinking she was all that stuff. She got her lunchbox back, which was well enough. She could hold her head high now, but grabbed a gulp of air when she opened up the box, saw her lunch wasn't there. That wasn't her ham sandwich. She'd packed an egg on rye. Then the truth started dawning like a tale gone wrong. This had been Teresa's lunchbox all along. Hers was on the counter where she'd left it that a.m. In the kitchen, she'd forgot it, munching toast and jam. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine.
Here he is, the noted psychiatrist, Dr. Sigmund von Megan.
I meet some real crazies in my work.
Now tell us, Doctor, why do you consider yourself an expert on television?
Well, when I was a little schnitzel back in Dusseldorf, I fell into an old TV set. A gestunken bolt of electricity exploded through my body. I got TV in my blood.
You ain't got no blood. Here's another freaky story.
All right, this is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, but I can't tell you his name because, well, you'll understand. You see, he was a real smart aleck kid. Let me give you an example. One day, he swiped a waiter's jacket, put it on, and stood in front of this swanky downtown restaurant. Brad made like he was the parking valet. Oops, forget I said his name. Not allowed to do that. Regulations. Right then, this hoity-toity rich couple pulled up in their fancy new convertible. The lady was dripping diamonds, and hubby was oozing big bucks. And you know who, the kid, was all smiling and making like, "Good evening, sir and ma'am." Then he took the car away like as if to park it, but the kid drove it around the corner, and guess what? It just kept going. So when the couple came back out, Brad did it again. Anyway, Brad was gone, and so was the fancy new car. The missus was all in tears. You see, they'd special ordered the car to be the exact same color as her favorite lipstick, so she could be color coordinated, right? And the husband, well, he was spewing smoke and fire, because even to a rich guy like him, a car like that is not small change. So they called the police and took a taxi home from the restaurant. And all the way, the wife was whining about losing her special car. The husband was on his cell phone, waking his insurance broker to make sure he was all covered and wasn't going to lose any money. "Money?" the wife said. "Is that all you care about? Money? I'll never get another car that exact same color." But the husband just said, "Change your lipstick." This was some deep relationship. Well, they were pretty upset, and they stayed pretty upset for a couple of days at least. The wife was complaining and running all over town, trying out different shades of lipstick. The husband was grumbling every time he squeezed into the little economy compact, which was all the car rental place had. But just 3 days later, there, in his driveway, plain as day, was the red convertible. And sitting in it, putting on her lipstick, was his wife. She was all smiling and happy, saying how she came home from the cosmetics store and found the car just sitting there. And she showed her husband a note she found in the car. The note, which was written as neat as Brad could make it, said, "Sorry, I had to borrow the car. There was an emergency. By using the car, I was able to save a life. Thanks." And with the note, there were 2 tickets to La Boheme, which is an opera that the couple pretended they were kind of crazy about, because liking opera meant they had culture. The tickets were for that very night, front row seats. You can imagine how they felt. The car was back without a scratch. They had 2 tickets to this high-class opera, and their car, according to the note, saved someone's life. Now they could brag to all their friends about how good and caring they were, and with culture to boot. Well, they got dressed to the nines. Tux, evening gown, the works. They went to the opera in their fancy red convertible. If the story ended here, it would be one of those they lived happily ever after stories, which it isn't. You see, After the opera, they came home, and to their surprise, everything in their mansion was gone. I mean, everything. Furniture, appliances, linens, dishes, even the burglar alarm. Their big, magnificent mansion was a big, empty mansion. They would have collapsed from shock, but there was nothing for them to collapse on, too. But as upset and depressed as they were, they had to admire the crook's ingenuity. These kids today, who says they lack enterprise? This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Yeah, his name is Brad, and I've got him out of the car parking and house robbing business. He's into lettuce, picking it for the next 10 to 15 years. For me, the warden on the youth detention farm.
Welcome back to our interview with Dr. Sigmund von Megan.
Dankeschön.
Now, tell us, Doctor, what is the secret of the success of Freaky Stories?
Maurice the Maggot. What a charmer. What talent.
Excuse me while I go and hurl my guts out.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Joe was a traveling salesman. His territory covered most of the Omega sector. He used to drive around hawking what he called quality merchandise. Dime store stuff, crab jigs, and time coders. Business was pretty good for Joe. He was a sharp dresser and drove a shiny new sedan. He liked the ladies. The ladies liked him back. One night he finished his last call at my shop and was looking for a motel. The rain was coming down in buckets. And as far as Joe was concerned, any fleek bag joint in a storm would do. Joe was hunched over the steering wheel, peering out as his windshield wipers waged a pitched battle with the unrelenting sheets of rain. It wasn't a night fit for man or bot. That's when he saw her. She was walking along the gravel at the side of the road, drenched to the bone, and making a futile effort to protect herself from the weather. Against his better judgment, Joe pulled up alongside of her. He studded the window open. "You all right, miss?" The girl kept walking. Couldn't hear him above the beating rain. Joe stopped the car and got out. "It's a long way to the next town, miss. Are you sure you wouldn't like a ride?" The girl stopped, then turned to face him. She was young, couldn't have been more than 16. Wearing a light summer frock and sandals, no umbrella, no raincoat. Kids, out on a night like this. The girl climbed into the back of Joe's sedan. As he started the thrum motors, Joe glanced in the rearview mirror. You could see that she was shivering. Joe took off his overcoat and passed it to her. "Here, you better wear this. It'll keep you warm till you get home." She slipped into the coat, said thanks, and sat staring out into the rain. "Where can I drop you?" asked Joe. 437 Hope Street, she replied. "In Ridgemount, the next town up the road." "Got a name?" She said, "It's Mina." Unusual. Yep, unusual. She wasn't much of a talker. Different than any teenager he'd ever met. So Joe gave up and drove on through the teeming downpour. He crested a hill, and there ahead lay the thriving metropolis of Ridgemount. Population 600. "There she blows," Joe said, in one last attempt at conversation. But when he turned around to see if Mina was laughing, she wasn't. She was gone. And so was Joe's coat. How could that be? He hadn't stopped once the whole while she was in the car. The puzzlement of it all made Joe's head spin. He found 437 Hope Street without any trouble. It was quite the bungalow. He went to the door and rang the bell. The door slowly swung open. He was wearing a tuxedo. All 7'8" of him. It was an old Mark III, a robot butler. Joe hadn't seen one of those since the radiation scares back in the 80s. There was a girl on the road. I gave her a lift. She wanted to come here. "One moment, please," said the robot as he turned and left. He went into the back room and emerged saying, "Follow me." And he led Joe up some stairs to a room with little light, lots of cobwebs, and the smell of aging everything. And there was this ancient crone, and just enough light to tell she was at least 1 century old. "Thank you for the ride." "What's going on?" "I gave a ride to a young girl, but when I turned around, she was gone." The old woman smiled and said, "Gone is such a final word." "But," Joe began, but never finished. The old woman smiled. "Some of us never go." When she handed back his coat, he looked deep into her eyes. Behind the wrinkles, Joe saw the 2 bright eyes of a teenager. This was a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Joe. As for hitchhikers, he makes it a practice to only pick up stray dogs, robots, and senior citizens.
Doctor, here's the big question. What makes Freaky Stories such an exciting, vibrant, uplifting, invigorating show? Ugh. Well, it sure ain't the sparkling interviews. Must be the story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Clinton Vance was a guy I went to school with. He was always a bit of a scaredy cat. So when he decided to take a summer job at the Sunset Palms old age home, I couldn't believe it. It was Clinton's first day on the job, and head nurse Laidlaw assigned him to Mr. Siri for the day. "This is Mr. Siri's banking day. Take him downtown, Clint," she barked. On the way to the bank, Clinton stopped to get himself a soda pop, and Mr. Siri another packet of personal hankies. It couldn't have been gone more than 5 minutes, but they say that 5 minutes is all it takes. He handed Mr. Siri his tissues. The old guy didn't even say thank you. In fact, he didn't say a single word on the whole trip to the bank. Clinton just figured he was, moody. That is until he brought the Sunset Palms station wagon to a stop in front of the bank, and Mr. Siri plopped over into his lap. Clinton panicked, assuming that he'd lose the job of a lifetime if anyone knew that someone, died while he was supposed to be looking after them. Clinton decided to complete Mr. Siri's business downtown, sneaking back into the Sunset Palms and straight into his own bed, where it would be discovered that the poor old gent passed away in his sleep. Poor nervous Clint shivered worse than he did in biology class when he reached into Mr. Siri's breast pocket to pull out his bank book and deposit slip. After fumbling through several used hankies, he managed to shake it off and run into the bank. Inside the bank, Clinton made the deposit. But before he could run out, the clerk saw that there was a message on Mr. Siri's file. They needed to head up to the bank manager's office to sign some papers. Poor Clinton went outside and hauled Mr. Siri out of the wagon and headed up the elevator to the 13th floor to meet with the manager. The security guard recognized old Mr. Siri and gave him a wave. Clinton waved Mr. Siri's arm back at him. Finally, they got up to the 13th floor. The bank manager greeted them grandly, but also wondered if Mr. Siri was okay. Clinton explained that Mr. Siri was just really tired. When the bank manager slid the papers he needed signed across the desk, Clinton quickly pointed out the window, screaming that Donald Stump's helicopter was soaring by. As soon as the manager turned his back, Clinton signed the papers. Clinton and Mr. Siri got back to the elevators, only to find an out-of-order sign. Whoa. 13 flights is quite a bit for Clinton, even on his own. Surprisingly, he did just fine wrestling the limp Mr. Siri down the flights. Well, 2 of them anyway. Unfortunately, Mr. Siri found his own way down the remaining 11 stories. Finally, Clinton got him into the car in one piece and back to Sunset Palms. After tucking him into his bed, Clinton dusted himself off, regained his composure, and ran to Nurse Laidlaw Station. Come quick! Mr. Siri is, well, you know, he's ceased to be, he yelled. Nurse Laidlaw ran into Mr. Siri's room to find the corpse, but when they whipped the door open, there was Mr. Siri sitting upright. Poor Clinton stammered about being positive Mr. Siri was deceased. The Nurse Laidlaw explained Mr. Siri suffers from narcolepsy. He falls into a deep sleep when you least expect it. The nurse and the interns laughed. Old Mr. Siri wasn't laughing, though. Aside from wondering why his head hurt, he was his old self, calling for his jelly dessert and a bedpan. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine who decided to get a different job, like at a mortuary.
Our first letter is from a viewer who wants to know if we ever did an infomercial.
Hey, Charlie, run the clip. For only $14.95 plus shipping and handling, you can have Glorp, the new improved youth cream. The secret ingredient in Glorp is...
Grease trap drippings.
Does it work, you ask? Well, here's living proof. This is Maurice after using Glorp, and here's Maurice before. If you don't want to look like this, smear on some Glorp and you can look like this. The infomercial wasn't what you'd call a big hit.
The cops shut us down
Yeah.
for fraud.
You see, the before picture wasn't really Maurice. It's hard to find a maggot uglier than Maurice. We shot this picture of Maurice's great-uncle Filbert 2 weeks after Filbert died. He's still better looking than Maurice.